So the resource I'm going to be highlighting is the community development model that we use at the Hub and the community coaching performance agenda. So those are my two community change resources that I entered. There's some other graphics and things throughout the presentation that I'm going to be entering as time goes on. So the West Virginia Community Development Hub is an intermediary statewide nonprofit in West Virginia. Before I show you the resource I entered, I found it to be the type of resource that could be modeled by any organization or community and is therefore a valuable asset for CDCs everywhere. So I feel like it can be tailored to other organizations, and that's why I chose to enter it as one of our resources. So as you can see, the model is flexible, could be tailored easily to any type of process. It's a good graphic to use when attempting to involve multiple sectors in any type of initiative or project in the community, because it is very free-flowing and flexible, and those empties or those spaces could be filled in with different things. And this is just another way to kind of slice that model. So really any way you can model and tailor the graphic, it still kind of works the same way. So we've attempted to try to diagram it different ways to make it a little bit easier for people to understand, but it all comes out in the same process. So feel free to play with these resources. Our community development process is intentional, continuous, aligned, and locally directed. That might not be how your process works, but the model certainly can be tailored to whatever type of community development process you're using. So this is just how we found it works in West Virginia. So these are some of the actors, we call them, that contribute to community development. Once again, this is going to be another resource I'll enter, and these bullets can be filled in with different people that you utilize and capitalize on in your community. So that's also a model that can be modified. This is actually a process. So these are the activities that then will contribute to community capital, and those also, may or may not be present in your community, but we have found those are the ones that are important to in developing community capital. So let's see, and this will ultimately all contribute to developing community capacity as a whole, which is what our agency focuses on. So there's all these different forms of capitals in the community, and you could feel free to add and take away from these types of capital as well, because some communities may be lacking in some of these areas, and there may be other types of capital we want to insert. Financial capital is one that's certainly lacking in a lot of the communities that we work with. This again is another process that could be modified. So this is just the way that we do it, in the order that we do it at the Hub. Seems to work in most of the rural communities that we're working with. We particularly like to focus on the implementation part of this process. That's kind of where, as an intermediary, where we come in. So this is a book that my director recommends called Net Gains for building networks, because I'm going to segue here into our community development network in West Virginia, which has 2,500 people. So when we do email blasts, it reaches out to that many people and beyond, and then they forward it on to their networks and so on. And so this is what it looks like mapped, which I know that's a little crazy, but just gives you the understanding of how big it could get. And we talked about how this community change resource bank could also get this big nationally and beyond. So this is just in West Virginia is kind of that center, and then there's other pockets of Appalachia that we've made connections with. Networks are in the language of our times, but our institutions are not programmed to understand them. So just because networks seem a little messy and there's no technical leadership, doesn't mean they don't work. We use them a lot to leverage funding, to build support, to get letters of support, to build collaborations with other organizations, and it works well for us. This is a very old graphic from 1929 from the WVU Extension. So even back then, they kind of had a handle on the fact that all these key players need to be involved in the process of community development to keep it balanced. So I'm not sure how I'll get that graphic in there as a resource, but I had to scan that. So it did come out that great. Another book that I'll be entering in is Our Iceberg is Melting. So it really just, basically our approach is based on this book, and it's a very simple read. It's kind of fun. It has kind of cute penguin characters if you're into the wildlife scene with that, but it's really relatable and easy to apply. So this was where our community coaching comes in. It's our hubcap initiative that was developed by Doug K. Smith from Harvard. And he gave us the methodology to use in West Virginia. and allowed us to make a curriculum from that to certify community coaches in our area. And so what we found that there's a lack of a systemic approach in community development in West Virginia. So we try to bring a more holistic approach to communities, because we feel like implementation is where they often fall off. So we're kind of there to support them, to provide technical assistance. And we have found that implementation based on action, so you have your teams at the top, and we use civic engagement broadly to pull other players into the process. Then the community collaboration team is a smaller team based on various sectors in the community. And then the three of us is the community collaborative teams, the coaches, and the hub. This is a sample performance agenda. It's a little different than strategic doing, that it's based on 100-day wins rather than 30-30. We found it to be very effective in holding people accountable and identifying SMART goals and activities to achieve those goals. So we use this in 2 different processes that we have. One is all planning, and the other, HubCap, is all implementation. So when we certainly always focus on planning in a lot of capacities, HubCap is 100% implementation. So we use these performance agendas to push communities into making their plans a reality. And I think the last slide is next. So these are our 6 community performance coaches that we certified a couple of months ago. So we don't have enough. We'd like to certify more. Anne actually lives in Bethesda, she moved there recently, which doesn't help us in West Virginia now, but so, and all the others are from West Virginia, and they've got various backgrounds from different sectors and seem to work well for us. So